Hello, everyone. This is Christian Mordi. We're here with Coach Gayle Fulks. Coach, how you doing today?
Doing great, Christian. Excited to be here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, when did you realize coaching was something you wanted to do for the rest of your life?
I knew pretty early on. It was something that my dad did growing up, and I grew up in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and was a huge Charlotte Hornets fan growing up. And Muggsy Bogues was my favorite player, and I might have always loved the little guy, but you know, basically, I'd come downstairs every morning, eat my Honey Nut Cheerios with my dad, and ask to see the Charlotte Hornets box score. And to be honest with you, if the Hornets won, it was because Muggsy did it all. It wasn't the coaches. It wasn't the coach why they won. It was Muggsy. But if they lost, it was because the coach didn't use Muggsy right. So age 5, 6, 7, I was criticizing coaches. Now I'm sure people do that to me, but I've always been a huge fan of the game, loved it, and I really got started coaching pretty young. I was an assistant coach for my dad in high school. Got to coach my own AAU team my senior year of high schoal, and every year I was in college. So it's something I've always wanted to do, and now I'm living it out, and it's pretty awesome.
Quick off base question that I didn't have coming. Pick one: Glenn Rice, Larry Johnson, or Alonzo Mourning. In their Charlotte days, you can only choose one to start a team with. Which one are you?
I got to go with Larry Johnson, but I'm quite frankly going with Muggsy. So you got to.
We're assuming that Muggsy is the point guard regardless. So.
Well, and then I'd go with Del Curry. So I'm just saying.
Shooting.
Yeah, I got to have shooting, and he steps pretty good too. So I'm going with Del for the record.
Awesome. So like you mentioned before, you're like Charlotte. I know you lived in Richmond, Virginia, things like that as well. If you use one word to describe a basketball player from where you're from, what would it be and why?
Say that again, sorry.
If you were to use one word to describe a basketball player from where you're from, what would it be and why?
Like just the general characteristics of a player from my area, or I would say, we were pretty good, in my area growing up. I was, just surrounded by a lot of great players that went on to go play college basketball, and, some are now, in coaching. But, a lot followed me. You've seen quite a few players kind of come through the area that have been playing in Final Fours the last couple of years and making a pretty big impact in college basketball. But, I would just say, I think we work hard, and, we're a little overlooked. We weren't down in the 757 with Boo, or up with the Fairfax Stars up in Northern Virginia. So kind of that Richmond area, you had to, just be tough and be a kid that was willing to kind of do whatever it took to win.
Yeah. So how'd you land at FDU? How'd that happen? Why FDU? How'd you land there?
There were a couple coaches that were assistants in that stretch, Kia Damon and Ty Grace, both now 2 head coaches at Lafayette and at Howard, that I thought did a really nice job recruiting me and building a relationship. I wanted to, play, obviously, at a program that really wanted me, and I felt like FDU did. And really, it was a lot of those showcases back in the day, we're in the Northeast. And so being in Richmond, you kind of had the option to go down to Atlanta and kind of have showcase opportunities, or kind of go to DC, go to Philly. I went north. My dad was kind of a business guy, so he was up in that area a lot. And, it's where I landed, and it was a great decision. FDU is a place where I really learned a whole lot more, with just the, diversity of the student population, and being in classes with a lot of different types of people. And, they introduced me to the international game, and Definitely. Now we're doing it at Davidson. So, it was a great experience for me.
Yeah. All right. So if you were to use one word to describe your coaching style, what would it be and why?
Coaching style wise, I think I try to be very direct, and, I think try to exude a lot of care for our kids and try to be consistent with them, because quite frankly, it starts there with like them being able to expect things from you, for you to be able to expect things from them. And so I think that's something that I really try to do every day for our kids, is show up in a place to be there for them, but also, consistently approach things and not ride too much of a roller coaster. And the other thing is I'm very collaborative with our players and with our staff. I try to hire great people that are smarter than me and can bring different things to the table, and us really work together. And so I feel like just kind of those three things are huge for me when it comes to how I go about coaching my kids, coaching our program, and leading us. But the key is being a great people picker. That's the key right there. That's the key. So try to take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, true. So one of your first big jobs was assistant video coordinator for the Liberty.
Yep.
Very interesting. I think that's awesome and dope. Tell me about how that came to pass.
Yeah.
And what you learned during that time.
I was really fortunate, tying back to FDU, but Nick DePillo, who was on the men's basketball team at FDU, was the assistant coach for the New York Liberty. And my first summer at FDU, I had a chance to work camp with him. He was kind of hanging around, helping out with the girls' camp as well. And so we got a chance to get to know each other and stayed in touch through the years. And when that opportunity became available, he helped kind of move my name up to a spot to get an interview. And then I had a chance to interview with Catherine Proto, who, taught me so much just about organization and details and, how to be really, really good from that phase. And I think it helped set the table for me as I moved in my career, just because I really watched basketball for like 8 to 10 hours a day and cut it up and try to do a great job for her to help the Liberty obviously do preparations for their games. But to see players at the highest level, to see teams have to operate with coming up with game plans to stop some of the best players in the world, it was just it really kind of was eye-opening how much detail went into those decisions that maybe I didn't realize during my times as a player.
So you have a very diverse portfolio in regards to your experiences that led you to this point. Do you think that a lot of coaches don't go that route? Do you think, quote unquote, the road less traveled, but by choice that you made, have prepared you best for this point in your journey?
Yeah, I think so. I've never been somebody that has chased money. I've always kind of chased, a really good opportunity that made sense for me at the time. And getting started with the New York Liberty, it was $25 a day. And you know how much it costs to go across those bridges. It wasn't a whole lot of money. Okay. And so, it wasn't for that. It was because I loved the experience. I thought I could get a lot out of it. And, a big thing for me is just investment. And, I think you've got to invest in yourself. And so, doing that. And then, I went down to Longwood University to be a third assistant, and, that was $8,000 my first year, and so, getting going with that, it was just a great opportunity to be a 22-year-old assistant coach on the court in my home state, in Virginia, getting a chance to really learn. And Kristen Caruso gave me that opportunity. She was one of Gino's first recruits ever to UConn. And so I got to learn from somebody that, had very high expectations and once again taught me a lot. And I got a chance to do everything, at that level. As a third assistant, there was no director of operations, none of these other things that help you. So that was me, so it was a lot of work, and love Longwood. Farmville's not exactly a place to get distracted in your 20s. Let's put it that way. There's not a whole lot to do. So I was just sitting around working a lot and, try to get really good. And it led to an opportunity at UNC Greensboro and then Wake Forest. And so, I had a chance to really, learn at every stop. And, obviously it helped prepare me to be here today.
So we're going to rewind to those things in a little bit, but you're part of the BDS agency, correct?
Yes.
Most people don't know that coaches, assistant coaches, or head coaches have agents. Tell me about Brian, why you decided, in regards to having him as your agent, and was it the right fit? What are some things he helped prepare you for, and help you navigate in your career at this point?
Yeah. So, it all ties back to FDU. Brian Stanchek was one of my coaches at Fairleigh Dickinson. And so he coached me for 2 years, had a chance to learn from him, and we stayed in touch once he left and went to Seton Hall, and then kind of went to, be the athletic director, and kind of then started his own agency. And him starting his own agency like coincided with my stop at Wake Forest. And so he was like, "Hey, I'm doing this. You want to jump on? Like, I don't have any clients right now, but you want to be one of the first ones." And so I said, "Sure. I don't know what I'm doing." Okay. Like at that point, it was a pretty small financial commitment. And I'm like, yeah, like, you never know how this is going to go, but, wanted to support him. Always thought he was really bright and intelligent, and cared a lot for me. And he still does today. And so, he's somebody that, has been, a great friend, but also somebody that can help me with decisions and help prepare me. When I was getting ready for head coaching interviews, his ability to connect me with administrators that could kind of do mock interviews and ask me questions that would be similar to maybe an interview experience was huge. Him having a landscape, doing some of the legwork on researching some things, and helping me just feel very confident and prepared walking into an interview, was something that I found incredibly valuable. And his connections, him being able to get on the phone and get to people a lot easier than, just any person could. So, it's very valuable. I would highly suggest, if, you want to go that pathway, to consider having an agent. They have your best interests at heart, and can help you, I think, feel at ease and prepared when you walk into those interviews that are very hard to get. So.
So you mentioned your time at Longwood.
Yeah.
You're young at the time. You're getting after it, though. You're getting after it.
I got to be a head coach for 2 games there too. So that was fun.
I'm sure your palms were sweating.
Man, I was so excited. I was like, okay, all right, let's go do this. So, but yeah.
You're also the recruiting coordinator there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
What made you sharp as a recruiter? What things do you do to give you an edge?
I think, being really organized is important. And knowing, I think, being able to have honest conversations with your boss, about, hey, what's realistic here? What qualities are non-negotiable for you at this spot or this, and I think it starts with whoever you're recruiting for having a really good vision for the type of kid that they like and who they don't like. You don't want to waste a lot of time, if a kid doesn't fit the profile or the program very well. And so I think, what I've been able to do when I was kind of in those shoes was, be really sharp with organization and having a business background. I'm quick with Excel, like all those, like just little things from an organizational standpoint, that you need to be good at. But also just, making sure that, the type of player you like is, in alignment with what your head coach likes, because, that's the big thing. I try to communicate as much to my staff now about what I don't like as much as what I do like, because, everybody's got a slightly different eye or opinion, but we got to be able to mold them into what we want to do here, which is a pretty clear brand here now at Davidson that we've built. But yeah, I think that's the big piece is really knowing what's going to like be deal breakers and quickly identifying those. And it helps narrow your pool really quickly.
We mentioned before we got on the air that I'm a book guy, but I don't know if you're a book guy. But if so, tell me one or two books that really grab your attention, that's if you're a book person.
Yeah, right now I'm reading Raise the Game by Alan Stein, and it's just been a great refresher. It's a lot of things so far that I've probably heard in the past, but I think, this off season with it being a little bit more traditional, I've had an opportunity to kind of sit down and read that one. I've read Toughness by Jay Billis. I've read Relentless by Tim Grover. I try to I read as much as I can kind of within those basketball realms, particularly with like leadership or program development, but also mentality. So I would say those are kind of the 3 that I've read probably in the last 2-3 years that I felt have just been helpful in understanding really like kind of like more broadly some areas to kind of reflect on within my own program.
UNC Greensboro, you were there. Tell me about that time. One of the best lessons you learned via observation or conversation you had with your coworkers or your head coach or whatever the case may be during that time, because you learn something through every experience.
Yeah, it was a tough experience. I think one of the things that I really learned about, putting together a staff and putting together, a new program. Once again, I went to Longwood with Chris Caruso in her first year, was with Wendy Palmer in her first year at UNC Greensboro, and then I was with Jen Hoover in her first year at Wake Forest. And so kind of what I learned is, I didn't know Wendy that well, and Wendy didn't know me that well. And, I knew she knew some people on the staff well, but I think a lot of us were having to learn each other and learn her all at the same time. And, that made for, just obviously just some growing pains. And so when I became the head coach here at Davidson, something that I really learned from that experience was, having people that know each other, know me, is really important. And so I ended up hiring, two of my three assistants that had been with me for years. I had coached or played with, or not played with, but coached or worked with for years. And then I added one kind of fresher voice, from the outside. And so there was just less of the growing pains of like, hey, who are we? Who are you? And I think that allowed us to kind of get more on the same page early. And that was a lesson I felt like I learned at UNCG, was just, hey, it's hard. Like all getting on the same page is really, really hard. And, it just takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And, it was we won 4 games, so it wasn't fun. Let's be honest, winning's fun. So, but that was just something that I really learned. And, it was a great experience from the standpoint of, it was the first time I had ever coached in a conference, because when I was working at Longwood, we weren't even in a conference. And so getting a chance to really feel a conference tournament, getting a chance to feel what it's like to play teams twice in a row. We were one of the worst teams in the league, and we beat Samford, who was number 1 in the league at home. One of our 4 wins was against the best team. And then, I don't know if we didn't know what we were doing, or as a coach, I didn't do a great job the second go around, but we lost by 40, so it's like, you get that understanding of what conference play is. And, I learned a lot, and I think that's been something that I've tried to do is, hey, if you learn one thing at a place, it was a great thing. If you can learn a lot, that's even better. But every experience, is valuable, and you just got to approach it that way.
Mm-hmm. You learn through experience.
Yeah.
We definitely learned through it. So you're at Wake Forest, Power
Mhm.
5, whole another ball game.
Yeah.
And one of my mentors used to say to me, you have to master the art of following before you can lead.
Mhm.
So you're working for Jen Hoover, right? Her first year there. Pretty well liked, I've heard, from the majority of people.
Yeah.
Tell me about your time there, because obviously you've had experience before you've gotten there in regards to helping build a program, which I think was an edge that you may have had over certain people. But now you're building something at the highest level. Like ACC is like pumping steroids. Like you playing
Mhm.
Duke and Virginia Tech and UNC and like, so, but you're trying to build it at that time. How did you guys take that program to another level?
I think, at that level, it's still basketball. You have to have a good plan, a good vision, and you have to be able to articulate that to, all stakeholders, to get buy-in, right? You were taking over a program that needed to be enhanced. And so, I thought Jen did a great job of leveraging her, being an alum of the school and just kind of those deep-rooted connections, and coming off a very successful season, as a head coach prior at High Point, where she was, I think, named Rookie Coach of the Year. There was just a lot of positive vibes about that. And what we really did was, we tried to attract really, as high of a level recruit within our region as we possibly could. And that was when I got exposed to international recruiting. And James Jansen, my associate head coach here now, was actually with me at Wake. We lucked into having him there as he was just attending graduate school, and was just in the health and exercise science program there, and said, hey, can I come by and help out? We were like, sure. And getting a chance to get to meet him. I started going to Australia to go recruit. He's Australian, and went over there a lot, and it exposed me to a whole different brand of basketball. And we were able to bring in one of the best, Australian players in their country to our program, and start to build around that, along with another great international player, Elisa Penna from Italy. And then, Ivana Raja, who was from Serbia, kind of came right after, as I was leaving. I was part of her recruiting process. But, being exposed to that with a bigger budget, was something that was huge. But, I think international recruiting is a great way to be able to grow your program, because the competition is a lot lower, or I'm not going to say lower, but just there's less people that are prioritizing international recruiting. And that's something that I think makes a big difference, is if international recruiting is a priority versus a fallback, a plan B. And when we were at Wake, we made it a priority. And now at Davidson, that's something that I've taken, and that it's a priority here as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So then you become the head coach at Davidson.
Yeah.
What made this school an ideal fit for you at this point in your career?
I can't say enough great things about Davidson. It's a very high academic school that is very committed to basketball, that really operates with a great deal of integrity, and with our honor code system. So just the way that things are done here, we have to recruit kids into our program that can go through the admissions process here on their own 2 feet. So it's not something where I can say, hey, I really like the way you play, like, here's a scholarship. It's like, I really like the way you play. Can I have your transcript? Can I have this? Can I have that? And then send it over to admissions, and then see what they say, and then come back with recommendations or whatnot. So it's, for me, it's just, there's a lot of clarity. There's no, it's not confusing at all, as to who we are. We have a very small, or kind of clear niche within college athletics, being a high academic liberal arts college, that plays Division I. There's not many of us. And, really it allows us to be really, I think, committed in our recruiting process to certain types of kids, because, those priorities have to be aligned for it to be a good fit. And, it's, people say, hey, it's hard. And it's like, well, it's not that hard. You might start with a pool of 100, but once we've gone through this admissions thing, you're down to 15. And those 15 kids are pretty interested in Davidson because of who they are and what their academics are, and, all of that. So it really helps us identify kids, and narrow our search a lot quicker, because we have such a clear identity.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know how rigorous the interview process is.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I mean, for assistant coaches, it's hard. But head coaching is a whole nother level.
Yeah.
You got to go in with your portfolio with most jobs, your
Yep.
mission statement, all those type of things, your plans, all that type of stuff. Looking back, from assistant coach to head coach, give me at least 1 or 2 questions that you walked out the room thinking, I was not prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I answered that properly. Or that you could be like, you know what, guys, watch out for this one, because it's coming, and be ready for that one.
Oh man, it's been a while. I don't necessarily think I was surprised a ton, just because of the responsibility I was given at some of the other places with the budget and compliance and marketing. But I do think that the things that kind of can come up, that, it's hard to be prepared for, is when there's multiple people in a room with like a search committee format. So you're actually, trying to talk to one person, but also to a whole group at the same time about things, when they're asking you questions. And so I think there's obviously the strengths and weaknesses question. That's always, a little bit of a double-edged sword, like who's going to say a weakness that doesn't also a positive type of thing. But, I think having a really clear vision for what your philosophy is going to be with players and how you're going to handle them, because it has to be in alignment with what an athletic department is obviously really comfortable with. I got here and said, hey, I'm going to have study hall. It's something we've always done here. And Davidson got here and said, well, we don't really do study hall. That's not our thing. These kids are really smart. They're bright. That's just, you don't need to do it. They've got a 3.5 GPA already. I'm like, with no study hall. I'm like, okay, all right. Well, that's a, clear thing. So it's not so much the questions, it's more listening along the way and being able to reply accordingly. And I looked back on that question, and it's like, I should have picked up that that wouldn't be something to talk about, that these kids were above that, and so I was hoping when I got out of that question, they weren't looking at me being like, oh, she just doesn't know what she's in for. It's like, you really have to be great at listening, to pick up on some things within the interview process. And, everybody that's on that, I guess itinerary, there's a reason, why they're on there. And so you better be really prepared and sharp, to talk to them about their area. I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah. I wanted to quote you, so I want to make sure I get this quote right.
Okay.
I want a united basketball team that has fun playing with each other. A we over me mentality where it's about sharing and preparing together. I want us to have a passion for this game as it's a wonderful game. I want this team to value the investment to the program, community, and the game of basketball, as the game has invested a lot into me.
Yeah, that's me.
That's you, Coach.
That's me.
How do you instill those values from a cultural perspective in your program?
Yeah, I think, just something that's really important is, the way that I see basketball is through a team lens, and the way that we go about playing, how we try to work together as a group. We talk a lot about, hey, we want to be the most cohesive program in the country. That's the goal. And it needs to be on display on how we communicate, how we play offense, how we play defense, how we interact and talk about each other on and off the court. And it starts by, really, I think, having a really clear set of priorities. I think priorities in a women's basketball program is critical to establish. And for us, it's so clear. And I think it really helps, make that united group, a group that can say, hey, it's we over me, because everybody's on the same page and everybody's working, with the same level of intensity toward a goal. And for us, 1 is faith, family, and health. 2 is academics, 3 is basketball, and then 4 is everything else. So it's just that everything else category. And a lot of women's basketball programs, creeps up above some of those other categories. And I think when that happens, you have issues. And so I think we do a good job of being confrontational. I think about if somebody is not really meeting those expectations from a priority standpoint. And that allows us, I think, to all kind of have a common ground and be able to really trust one another, that everybody's as invested as the person next to them. And, we're doing it in the way we play too. I think that's the other thing is, we talk about we shots versus me shots. That's a big thing for us. And, defensively, we want teams to take a bunch of me shots, type of deal, and so it's just in our language, it's built in the way we talk. And, for us, it's trying to really, I think, build just authenticity in everything that we're doing with one another.
Awesome, Coach. Awesome. Couple more questions. I'm not gonna hold you too much longer. I know I'm a talker, so
That's all right.
It's easy to talk about the good.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the bad. Tell me about not the UNC Greensboro time, but tell me about one moment reflecting back. And you're like, you know what? That was a crossroads moment for me. Like it could have went left, or maybe I questioned myself. Like, am I in the right place right now? Am I doing the right thing? And how you got out of that funk? What pulled you out of it?
Yeah,
If there was a moment like that.
Yeah, I think, there was, times during my journey here at Davidson where, some of my values that we have in our program, were, I was at a point where I should have probably drawn a clear line in the sand of, hey, this is not how we're going to operate here. And, if you're not on board, then, hey, we need to maybe go a different direction. And you feel for kids because kids sometimes make, decisions that they, they're young, and so you try to kind of empathize. But I do think really holding true to your values and who you are, because that's the foundation that everything else gets built on, and, for me, it probably was those moments where, early on you're trying to build trust, with the group. And, You sometimes think that building trust is, making some compromises and meeting people where they're at a little further back towards them. And sometimes you have to have an actual spot where, no, you're holding them to this spot, and I think that's kind of been my biggest growing moment, being the head coach at Davidson has been, understanding how important it is to hold true, our values, and kind of that statement that you read above, but just that being, what centers us, the cohesiveness centering us. And so those are the most important things for us here, and what throughout my journey, I've had to really reflect on the most is, hey, did I make the right decision with that in mind, or was it easier to do something else, and so to me, that's been the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm. Totally understand, Coach. We all have to figure out our non-negotiables. I would say we all have them. You can't have a million of them, but you do have to have some that we're gonna, draw the line in the sand on. So I understand. You can only be only one or two people. You can be the the great X's and O's guy. We're down by one, the ball's on the side, you're drawing one up, the guy's getting shut off. They're getting loose. That's your thing. You're Brad Stevens, you're Nick Nurse, that's your thing. But pregame speeches, halftime speeches, during practice, you're kind of bland. Like you're just not really a rah-rah type of guy. That's not really who you are. Or you can be Coach Carter, you could be Denzel Washington and Remember the Titans. The players gonna run through the brick wall for you. Like the blood, sweat, and tears are on the court every single time. No doubt about it. But down by one, falling to the rim. I'm like, I just need somebody to get open. Like, like you give one of those type of speeches. Which one are you gonna choose?
I think, for me, it's and it's not the motivational speech isn't the thing all the time. I think showing them that you care every day and being steady with them, because 18 to 22-year-olds can be very volatile. There's a lot of emotions, a lot of things going on. And I think just trying to provide that consistent presence. And, I have kind of a saying, and I write it, on my scout, my pregame card all the time, but, blank is contagious. Whatever that is, whatever I'm going to be that day is contagious, and what is our team going to need? Do I need to be calm is contagious, is going crazy is contagious. What is that going to be? But, for me in any given situation, I think I can fill in that blank as needed, but just, I have to be very intentional, understanding that, hey, that is the blank, and it is going to be contagious, however I'm behaving or however I'm acting. And so, I probably lean a little bit more on the Brad Stevens side of things than the Coach Carter. Our kids make quite a bit of fun of me that I haven't watched any movies ever. So it's hard for me to seriously remember the Titans. I think I watched for the first time during the pandemic, and our kids were like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, I don't know, guys. Yeah, no, I just, they make a joke. Since 2001, I've watched no movies. So, but yeah, I mean, it's for me, I think it's just about being really intentional about what I'm trying to be, what I want to be contagious in those moments, and trying to give our team what we need.
If you can give a young coach one piece of advice, what would it be?
Work hard enough to be irreplaceable.
What can we expect to see from your team? Not wins and losses, but what will we see? Like if I'm coming to a Davidson game, I've seen your team play a bunch, but if I'm in person, I'll go to a Davidson game and I'm walking out after the game. What's the feeling you want me to have in my heart about your team?
I think that we play really hard and we play together. And there's a connection that you can see, one through everybody. But I want that cohesiveness that we spoke about to be really evident to everybody that watches us play.
All right. Anything I missed you want to share? It could be basketball related, non-basketball related. Christian, it was too long. Christian, it wasn't long enough. Like, hopefully, I may have missed something.
No, I mean, I think, just it's awesome that you're doing this and trying to grow our game. And, as people like continue to get on your podcast and, get to share themselves and whatnot, I think you're doing a great job of bringing out some awesome stuff, and so kudos to you, man. This was awesome. And I look forward to getting to know you. Hopefully I can get back up on campus. You guys did a heck of a job this year. So proud of my alma mater. And I know you guys are going to be cutting down some nets, and I want to be there when it happens. So just really proud of you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. And thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. You have a good one.
All right. Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.